I'm very much looking forward to, shall we say, the challenges that are presented today.
Let me ask you one question before we get into the issues of the day. Do you look back, do you say, all right, maybe I should have done it this way? Are there any regrets? Well, the only one criticism that people had about Fred Thompson, and I think I spent enough time with you on the road, is that you were the same person behind the scenes as you were out there on the stump, and then people would interpret that, well, does he have the fire in the belly?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure you got sick of hearing on these interviews.
Yeah.
Anything you do differently? Any regrets in the campaign?
Certainly tactically. And yeah, there are a lot of things that you look back over every day. You know, something comes up, you could probably done differently, done better. Fundamentally, no. As it turned out, I underestimated the time it would take, you know, to staff up and to get our fundraising organization together, and to get me back in fighting form. You know, I hadn't been on the political trail in a little while. You know, it takes a little time. But, you know, we got in because there were an awful lot of people out there who wanted us to get in, who felt like that we could serve our country, serve a need. I felt like there was possibly a chance to catch lightning in a bottle, which is what it would have been. Others had been out there running for a long time, spending millions of dollars and so forth. So we knew that it was pretty much a long shot, but we thought it was answering a need. So we were able to do it and do it in a credible manner. But of course, there's no second place in that business, and once that became apparent, it was time to move on and do what we can for the broader, conservative cause, really. You had said to me from the very beginning, the first time I interviewed you, this was not your lifelong ambition to be the president of the United States, and that you were going to put yourself in there, and if it happened, then you wanted to serve because you're concerned about the future of the country, the challenges we're facing, Islamic extremism, some of the other issues that you brought up at the time. Yeah, well, nowadays, that probably is interpreted as a little bit too much of a complacent attitude. It might be, a lot of people seem to think, and it might very well be true, that a person has got to be extremely personally ambitious and desire the office more than anything else in the world, and willing to do what's necessary and anything that's necessary to achieve it. And I just never was there. And but I was what I was, and I come out the other end of it the same way I went into it, and that's much more important to me than a particular election. And we got to talk about things, the few things, the handful of things that really matter. Most of these things we spend all our time on don't really matter. The president can't do anything about them anyway. But boy, that's an honest statement that you don't really often hear. Well, it's true, and everybody knows it's true. But you got to go around, you know, and talk about and answer all the questions and try to be all things to all people, and nobody can really do that. But the national security threats to our country, the things we're going to have to do to protect ourselves, you know, we haven't really come to terms with that yet. Our relations with our allies, our military, the spending that we're going to have to do, the intelligence capabilities that we're still lacking with regard to things of that nature. Senator McCain is now the nominee. You've always been supportive of Senator McCain. You always said nice things about him when you were out debating and out on the campaign trail. What do you say to conservatives that were supporting you because they deemed you as more conservative that maybe had some issues with Senator McCain? I would say to my friends that on all of the issues that are most important to this country and to our future and to future generations, John McCain is solid on. Certainly national security. With regard to the tax issues, with regard to trade policy, which is an important part of our prosperity also. All those things he's been strong on for a long time. He is one of the few people in the United States Congress, if not the only one, who over a period of several years who stood strong on pork barrel spending and wasteful government spending and so forth, you know. And one of the things that we're going to need in a leader going forward in this country, and one of the things we're going to need to get somebody elected president on the Republican ticket in these times that are very difficult for Republicans, is someone with credibility. John's solid. I don't agree with him on everything. I didn't during the campaign, but on the fundamental core issues, he is rock solid, and he's honest, and he does what he thinks is right. And we
we now continue with the final part of my exclusive sit-down interview with former Senator Fred Thompson. The Democrats are clearly telegraphing how they're going to go after and attack Senator John McCain. They're going to say he's old and that this is going to be a third Bush term. How would you advise Senator McCain, if he sought your counsel, to counter those questions?
Just be who he is. He's at his best when he puts aside the notes and the advice and everything else, and he speaks from his heart. You know, you probably say that about all of us. But he's been around, and he's tried and tested and true, and everybody knows him. He's like Hillary. All of their history and all of their assets and liabilities are all kind of factored into the stock price right now, and they're a known quantity. Half the people don't believe Hillary when she says something.
Actually, 60%.
As we speak, it's
going up by the minute.
John, on the other hand, has got a well-deserved reputation of being a guy who does what he thinks is right. And he makes Democrats mad. He makes Republicans mad. Sometimes he makes them both mad at the same time. He reaches out to the Reagan Democrats, you know, and that's why in this year that was supposed to be a disaster for the Republicans, there's real hope there now. It's not going to be as easy as some people think it's going to be, but there's real hope because he is who he is, and let the rest of this stuff just, you know, fall off to the side.
How many years did you sit next to him in the Senate?
A few. I don't remember exactly.
Is this issue, well, Senator McCain has a terrible temper. Is that true?
You know, I've read those stories, and he's acknowledged, you know, he's got a temper, unlike, you know, the rest of us.
Does that mean you don't have one, Senator? Is that what you're saying?
No, there's been a time or two where I remember specifically, you know, he's calmed me down. But honestly, and I'm sure he's had those run-ins that he's acknowledged with his, sometimes with his colleagues in times past. I mean, a lot of these things that I read about are years ago.
Issues, right.
And another interesting thing about it is that they're usually with his equals, his peers, his colleagues. It's not a staffer. It's not somebody that can't defend themselves. It's another big boy who can defend themselves, and they, you know, go at it on points that John thinks are important. I don't think that's a bad thing. I can personally say that having known him for several years and sat next to him on the Senate, I've never seen him lose his temper.
Oh, then there you go.
I'm not saying
You're not an easy guy to get angry at.
I'm sure he has. I'm sure he has, but that's just not part of his makeup. And he's taken a lot of flack. I remember some of these things. It was very unpopular. They'd get up on the floor and say things, and he was sitting there, you know. And he's anytime I've ever seen him under fire, he's been very cool, and I think he's probably learned from his past mistakes when he said things to colleagues, you know, that he wishes he hadn't said.
One of the things I'm a little frustrated as a conservative about is the Republican Congress, the Senate. I'd like to see a new contract with America. Why aren't they laying out a strong agenda for the country? And do you think that that would be a good idea? Well,
the question is whether or not we've kind of learned our lesson. You know, as the old saying goes, we came to town to drain the swamp, and instead of that, we made partners with the alligators, and now we become the, big spenders ourselves and engaged in the same kind of stuff that Democrats have been engaged in. Have we learned our lesson? We got our clocks clean last time. We need to reform ourselves. We need to learn our lesson. We need to get back to basic, fundamental conservative principles, the things that we are supposed to believe in, which should guide us through all these issues that come down the pike. The problem is, as we sit here today, very few people on Capitol Hill have any credibility. Saying it is one thing. Saying it, deathbed confession or conversion is one thing, but having a track record and standing tall when times are tough is another thing. And that's the thing that John has got going for him.